I interviewed over 200 highly productive people, from billionaires and entrepreneurs to Olympic athletes and straight A students. They all sort of had this sense that time is the most valuable asset. I mean, you can lose money, but you can also make money back again. You can get sick, but then get healthy again. You can lose friends and make new friends. When those minutes tick away, though, every day, those 1440 start going away, you never get them back. So time is the most valuable thing.
Hey folks, it's Mike Mutzel here with HighIntensityHealth.com. Thanks for tuning in to episode number 119. And today we're live with Kevin Kruse. He's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. And today we're going to talk about his new book called 15 Secrets Successful People Know About Time Management. And I read it this weekend. I've already been implementing some of the tips and tricks that he shared in that book. So it's an amazing book. I would highly encourage you to check that out. We're going to have that on the show notes at HighIntensityHealth.com/Kevin. And so Kevin, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Mike. Pleasure's mine. It's fun to be here.
Fantastic. So you're a best-selling author, keynote speaker, entrepreneur. You normally speak to a lot of executives and upper management. Let's maybe backtrack a little bit. How did you get involved in this coaching space?
Yeah, it's something I actually fell into, and specifically this productivity and energy book. It was sort of a passion project because I talk about being a reformed entrepreneur. I mean, I'm a business guy, basically. But it was, 2 decades ago, I like to say when I was young and dumb, I believe the hype around like hustle is a big word in the entrepreneurial space, the startup space. And you hear all these people celebrating about, haven't eaten in 24 hours because I've just been in the zone, working on the business or pulling an all-nighter and all that. And that really was, this sounds crazy, but I was living in my one-room office, sleeping under the desk. I'd get up every morning at 5 a.m. and drive to the YMCA, not to work out, because I didn't want to spend the time working out. God forbid I actually exercise. Right. I would just take my shower at the YMCA, change my clothes, and go back into the office. And, it was one of those things where I just was so foolish that I thought, there was always more to do on the to-do list. And so I would sacrifice sleep to work on more things. I would skip meals so I could get more stuff done. I was just always focused on that business and focused on that to-do list. It was just completely out of balance. And, the irony is those businesses failed. They didn't actually do very well. And looking back, it's like, no kidding. How good of a leader could I have been at work when I'm, completely frazzled myself? How creative could I have been thinking? How strategic could I have been thinking? I was doing that whole kind of work personal life thing, even with my second business, which was a couple years later, where I call it the emotional yo-yo, where when I'm at work, working late on the weekends, I'm feeling guilty that I'm not at home with my kids or, my wife. But when I'm home playing with the little kids, I'm stressing out because I'm not working on the to-do list. Yeah. So I just had it all wrong. And when those companies didn't do well, when my relationship suffered from it, I just started asking the highly successful people I did know, like, geez, you're running a multi-million-dollar business. You've got all these responsibilities, all these fires to put out. How do you have time to golf? How are you finding time to jog every morning? Why are you spending so much time with your kids? Like, I didn't get it. And slowly, I learned about these basically just habits, things that these people are doing to be productive. And I got better and better. And as I got better at it, the businesses did better. My relationships got better. And so when I sold my last company a few years ago, that's when I really put my writing hat on and said, I need a break from the entrepreneurial, the startup game. That's why I call myself a reformed entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. But let me try to share, not just my own experiences. I think they're relevant, but, let me also reach out and talk to other people, get the best advice I can and help others.
Yeah, it's really important that you're sharing this message, and some of the messages that you share in your book are so practical. And, for anyone, a stay-at-home mother, someone trying to lose weight or prevent diabetes, the biggest thing that I hear is I don't have time. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to go to the gym, and I've certainly been there myself, working on different projects and having written a book and have that, how you explained it, that guilt where when you're working, you're guilty because you're not with your family, but when you're not working, you're still guilty that you're not working. So, I guess a great starting place would be kind of like the introduction in your book. There's 1,440 minutes in every day, and kind of how to reframe time management. And sort of, I love how you totally put a different spin on time management that I think will really be informative for everyone.
Well, yeah, it's, and I call the book, 15 Secrets About Time Management. I hate that phrase, time management, because you really can't manage time. You only have the 1,440 minutes in a day. But, marketing wise, most people still think of that topic as time management. And the 1440, where time really comes into play is, and it's a mindset thing. A lot of people don't want to hear about mindset. They want to know, tell me what to do, to suddenly feel great or have energy or lose weight, whatever the topic might be. But our mindset does drive behaviors. If we believe smoking makes us look cool and loses weight, we're more likely to smoke. If we think smoking is going to make us feel horrible and kill us, at too young of an age, we're not going to smoke. So when it comes to time, that was like the universal thing. I interviewed over 200 highly productive people, from billionaires and entrepreneurs to Olympic athletes and straight A students. They all sort of had this sense that time is the most valuable asset. You can lose money, but you can also make money back again. You can get sick, but then get healthy again. You can lose friends and make new friends. When those minutes tick away, though, every day, those 1440 start going away, you never get them back. So time is the most valuable thing. And people will say, yeah, Kevin, I know it's all about time. It's important. But then their actions show that they don't truly believe it, because we would never just casually leave our money sitting around in piles for people to take from. No, we're not going to let even our friends steal money out of our wallet. But how often do we get a knock on the door if you're in the office? It's, hey, do you got a minute, Mike? Sure, come on in. And all of a sudden that minute's really 20 minutes. Or we're in the zone working on our project or doing what we need to be doing. The phone rings, we don't even know who it is, and yet we'll pick it up. And suddenly that person has put their priority onto our day, whether it's valid or not, we don't know. So I think it starts with that 1440 mindset to really realize, look, we all have the same number of minutes. And you think about that, the people that seem to get more done in an hour than an afternoon, how does a guy like a Richard Branson, he's got 400 companies and he's always sitting on his island, in his shorts and a white t-shirt, hanging out and surfing and stuff. Like, how does he pull that off? I had a chance to, I mentioned, to talk to the Olympic athletes, some that are now retired, some that are training for Rio. And what I didn't realize is most of these Olympic athletes, they're not sponsored. So that means they're working a day job and training for the Olympics. How did they get it all done without seeming, all frantic and frazzled? It starts with truly understanding that there's nothing more important than time. And once you have that mindset, the behaviors, the habits that get you that productivity and balance, all are easier to implement.
Yeah, that's great. And in your book, you talk about how, we spend so much time like on security, home security, putting our retirement in 401k and all that. But like you said, we don't think about just going on Facebook and watching the cat videos or the dog videos or texting our buddies, but it's we only have that 1440 in terms of minutes every day. And so, but what was interesting that that part was very interesting, but the fact that you talked about how successful, billionaires, entrepreneurs, Olympic athletes, they don't think about time management. They think about their values and priorities and what you call the MIT. So maybe share with us the different perspectives that these successful people have about time management.
Yeah, well, it just to your point, the first kind of thing or to do is to get really clear on your priorities, your life priorities, and then on a daily basis, be clear on your most important task or your MIT. So there's two big things here. When I was working literally over 100 hours a week on my business, if you had asked me, Kevin, what's the most important things to you? I'd say, my family, my friends, I like giving back. My business is important to me. Health, I know that's important. Yeah, I would say all these things, but if you opened up my calendar and looked at any given week or month, you would see that what I truly valued was the business, because I wasn't spending any time on any of the rest of that stuff. So we really need to, again, it starts with having a real honest conversation with yourself. It's like, listen, if I truly value my health, if I truly know that that's important for short-term benefits and long-term gains, I am going to make that a priority. And I'm going to schedule time for it. I'm not going to leave like exercise as number 58 on my to-do list. Nobody gets down that far on their to-do list. I'm going to proactively time block in advance that exercise time. And whether it's 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. when I hop out of bed, or whether it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I mean, it just becomes a recurring thing if that's something you value. If you value your relationship with your spouse, maybe you're time blocking, you're scheduling a date night once a week. So, I mean, think of the big things in your life and realize that your calendar isn't just for meetings and phone calls. It's to make appointments with yourself for things that are important for you to do. And then when it comes to that MIT, I used to get in trouble because I would think, wow, the most important task. I mean, what is the single biggest thing in my life? And I need to be thinking about it every day. It doesn't need to be that big, and it can change day to day. So, you know, if you're a salesperson, I mean, maybe your MIT is to make 50 cold calls that day. You know, if you're an executive with 10 people on your team, maybe Mondays, your most important task is to have one-on-one meetings to coach the people that report to you. If you're a writer, your MIT is usually to put words on a page. You better be cranking out more words. So whatever your role is, your job is, that's your MIT. One of the athletes said, in the year before the Olympics, she looks at every single minute, every single thing on her calendar and says, does this activity get me closer to the Olympics or further away? Is this going to get me closer to a gold medal or further away? And it was literally a daily decision. And now it's funny though, because MIT isn't always what you think it is. I mean, one of the things that stood out to me with the Olympians is, man, they sleep a lot. One of the things they talked about is the value of rest, relaxation, de-stressing. So there were some days where, I mean, the Olympians would be like, some days my MIT is to sleep 12 hours or to take a 2-hour nap or whatever that might be. So your MIT is your MIT. There's no judgment, you know, whether it's to spend time with family or health or business or something else. But it's really clear to be clear. I mean, one of the things I do every morning now, you know, I look at my calendar and, I probably say it out loud sometimes, or at least say it to myself. I think about what is my MIT, and I think about what do I have to do to win the day. And that's kind of like just a phrase that resonates. What do I have to do to win the day? And I try to do that thing before noon. You know, I want to win the day before lunchtime. Then the afternoon, you know, if I'm taking a power nap, if I'm talking on the phone, if I'm having some meetings, whatever it is, that's okay because I already won the day before 12 o'clock. So, you know, being really clear on our life priorities and scheduling them, and then day to day being crystal clear on our MIT. I mean, those were two of the habits that came out, you know, from these interviews.
That's amazing, Kevin. So you inferred the time blocking and the calendar aspect of time management. And I think a lot of people are kind of stuck on the outdated, not so productive way of making to-do lists. So maybe talk about the differences there and talk about how we can make these time blocks and then structure things for our MIT, such as, you know, creativity blocks and blocks to sleep and rest and recover. Because, you know, most people, if they have a to-do list, are going to be like, I can't sleep, I can't rest, I can't be creative. I need to finish this one task. But again, in your book, you go into eloquent detail about this, that the best thing to do is schedule all those things. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and this is something that I get some trolls online getting mad that I'm anti to-do list. And it's because, I mean, you know, this isn't our fault. We were all taught, like that's one of the first things time management courses teach us is to make a to-do list and to sort it, you know, A1, A2, all that kind of stuff. And you know, it turns out to-do lists, that's an idea that's over 100 years old. So it was like around 1920, a guy named Ivy Lee was hired by Charles Schwab, who was running US Steel, to come up with, make my executives more productive. So Ivy Lee said, all right, every morning they take out a piece of paper, they write 6 things down on the piece of paper, keep this piece of paper in their pocket, and work on the first thing. When they're done, cross it off, go to the next one until it's time to go home, and then go home. And this supposedly was a revolutionary idea, and it stuck. And to-do lists could work back then. I mean, it's when there were lots of executive, lots of middle managers. Every middle manager, had a secretary, an assistant. There was lots of time, but this idea of 6 things on the to-do list. I mean, when I was young and dumb, I had a legal pad and I had 2 columns of things on the to-do list. And so here's when I started doing the research on this. The psychologists have a lot of reasons why to-do lists are not a great way to be productive. First of all, it's just this list of things that don't have time durations on them. So we tend to do the things that are quick, easy to cross off. There's no weighted importance to them. So we tend to do the things that are urgent rather than important. To-do lists, as you were mentioning, they increase our stress levels because of something they call the Zeigarnik effect. If our brain knows that there's stuff that we need to take care of, but we haven't planned for it yet, it keeps churning. It knows about it, even at an unconscious level, they believe. So our stress levels, and it certainly was a conscious thing for me. Here I am stacking blocks, with my 2-year-old for an hour. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, there's 50 things I need to be doing at work right now, right? It was hindering me from being present, with my children. So they say that one last piece, Mike. So there was a research study done last year on to-do lists that showed that 50%, half of all to-do list items are never done, are never crossed off. They just sit there, again, on the bottom of the list. Yeah. So to solve this, the idea is, yes, you can write things you want to do down on a piece of paper. I use a notebook, Moleskine notebook, that I carry around everywhere. But you don't leave the to-do lists unorganized on that piece of paper. You immediately transfer them, to your calendar. And if you've already time blocked the things that are most important to you, that workout time, that time with the family, well, then you're only going to add things to do that are in your remaining time blocks. It also helps you to say no. Saying no protects our time, bats away time thieves. And when we just have a giant to-do list and someone says, hey, Kevin, can you volunteer for that committee, or can you clean out the garage or whatever? Sure, just add it to the bottom of my to-do list. Mm-hmm. Never gets done. If I actually have to schedule a 1-hour block to do it, I'll be like, I don't know that I can do that, or I can do that, but it's going to be 8 months from now because that's the first open slot. Going back to, this idea also of, I just didn't understand, we only have so many minutes. We all have the same number of minutes. So what it becomes really about is scheduling things in a way that we can maintain our energy levels throughout the day. There's one of the billionaires I interviewed, youngest billionaire in Africa, Mohammed Duji, really cool guy, like 40 years old, worth billions. And he told me that, first of all, he said, everything goes on his calendar. And the key to him for productivity is 1 hour of exercise from 1 to 2 every single day. He said by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he's probably already been working 7 hours of the day. So he needs an hour to rest, to rejuvenate, to recharge, so that he can be as productive in the afternoon as he was all morning. And that theme kept coming, is like, okay, we're going to schedule all these things, but we're not going to let the to-dos block out the things that are giving us, high levels of sustainable energy, like exercise, for example. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And you talk about the verbiage that highly functioning people, entrepreneurs, business owners, Olympic athletes, like you mentioned, the way that they write it in their calendar will say, I value my health, so I will schedule exercise, or I will conduct this exercise for 60 minutes. So is there any tricks to that, like the way that you write it in your calendar, or do you just block off exercise or meditation or, writing, whatever it is? Like, how do you write it such that it plays an effect on your future versus present psychology?
Yeah, well, there's 2 angles to that. So part of it, just practically speaking, I think you can just write it in the calendar. But if you don't have complete control of your calendar, so if you have an admin or you have a boss or someone that also influences the calendar, the trick is to think of these time blocks in the same way you would think about an appointment with a doctor or a dentist. So unfortunately, people will say, yeah, that young billionaire in Africa, he's on to something. I'm going to time block 1 to 2 o'clock exercise. What's going to happen? Your boss, your admin, someone is going to say, hey, Mike, we're trying to get together to talk about the whatever factory. Can you come in at 1:15? We'll probably take about half hour, 1:15, 1:45. Now, most of us, we say, okay, it's like, well, it was just exercise. We'll reschedule it. This partner just asked me, this peer asked me, my boss asked me, my friend asked me. I'll just move the exercise, the meditation time, the walk around the park, whatever it is. If you truly value it, you turn on this mindset that it's like a doctor's appointment. So by default, you say something back, no matter who it is. Well, first of all, if you have an assistant, you tell your assistant, hey, I'm blocking this time. And we don't have to call it exercise. You can call it health appointment, right? Health appointment. And say, protect that time the best you can. But by default, someone comes at you with a time request and you'd be like, oh, 1:15, I've got this health appointment. I probably could reschedule it if this is very important. Do I need to do that? Now it's back on them. And hey, sometimes it will be so important. They would expect you to like reschedule your doctor appointment, reschedule your dentist appointment. Most of the time, it's never that important. Like, oh, you got an appointment with the doctor? Oh no, well, let's try to move it to 3:30. You don't need to correct them that it's not an appointment. Right? You just called it a health appointment, right? But that's the mindset you need to get into, is default to, no, I can't, person I care about, because I also care about my health and I have this health appointment. The second thing, though, is you talked about this this kind of future versus present. And this is a cool thing, because so many of us have this thing where in the present moment, we have these great ideas about how we're going to eat better and how we're going to exercise and how we're going to do all these great things. But then when the present shows up, it gets to that day, we don't do it. We don't follow through. There was a time in my life, I'm a lot better now, where every Sunday as I'm grocery shopping, I'm like, I'm gonna lose some pounds this week. I'm gonna eat healthy. Let me buy some lettuce and some carrots and some tomatoes and all this stuff. I'm gonna eat right. And then what happens the following Sunday? I look at my refrigerator and I got all this disgusting wilted lettuce and these moldy tomatoes. I never touched the stuff because I sabotaged myself. All of a sudden it's Wednesday, I'm home late, and it's like, oh, I got to eat something. Geez, am I going to make that salad and eat healthy, or am I going to eat, day old pizza instead? I'm going to go for the pizza or some stupid thing. Exercise. We think we're going to exercise after work. After work shows up and I'm tired, I'm stressed, I got a little scratchy throat, maybe I'm getting a cold. You go with these excuses. So I say, we need to time travel in our minds to defeat our future selves. We need to think about, how's that future version of me going to mess this plan up? And what am I going to do about it, to make sure that doesn't happen? And one of the stories in the book is, I had a friend, this is really extreme. So, she's wanting to eat right. And usually she'll order, I don't know, turkey burger, no bun, replace the fries with a salad, right? Well, I've seen her where they bring it out and the fries are there. Now, instead of her assuming that she's going to have willpower and saying, oh, that's fine, I just won't eat the fries. Right. Or, what, I'll just eat one fry or something. She knows that this is going to go ugly. This is going to go bad. She doesn't trust her future self 3 minutes from now. Yeah. So the first thing she does, she opens up, takes the top off of the salt shaker and dumps all the salt on top of the fries, wrecks all the fries. That way she doesn't even get tempted to eat one fry, which of course ends up 3 fries, which ends up being the whole fries. For myself, to my Achilles heel is exercise. It's working out. I've been, blessed in a lot of areas of my life. And I'm the classic guy who, I will work out on schedule and do great for 2 months. And then something will happen to throw me off. And then I skip it for 4, 5, 6 months. And then I'm on 2 months. When I'm at my best, though, I know that my future self isn't going to exercise in the afternoon. Oh, too much work to do. My future self isn't going to exercise at night. Oh, you're a little tired and need to take care of the kids. Spending time with the kids is important too. I have to beat my future lazy self by working out first thing in the morning. I need to put the alarm across the room so I don't hit the snooze button. I need to put my workout clothes next to the bed. So when I roll out of bed, I'm standing on my shorts and t-shirt and sneakers. I need to really tell myself, you are not looking at email or your calendar until after you get off the treadmill. I need to battle my future self to make sure I follow through. So for a lot of these things, whether it's our health habits, our eating habits, trying to focus on our MIT. A lot of people will say, all right, my future self's going to mess this up. I'm going to go into work and my future self's going to be like, I'll just peek at Facebook. I'm just going to glance, make sure no text messages came in from the time I got off the elevator to get in my office, right? And they have to come up with routines to just bat away those distractions. So it's a weird concept, like time travel in your brain to battle your future self. But that's how we deal with this time dissonance that we have psychologically.
Yeah, it's really important. And that's something that we recommend a lot of people on the show, like put your yoga mat by the door. If you're going to meditate, like put some candles wherever you're going to meditate, do something or keep your phone in airplane mode when you wake up. These simple tricks, because your present self, like you said, always, thinks that it has a little bit more willpower than it really does. And if your phone's on, then you're going to be on Instagram and Facebook and email. And so one of the things I learned from your book is turning off notifications on email. I turn off Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all my social media notifications except email. And I was always distracted by that ping. And then I was like, wanted to answer it right away because it felt like, okay, I'm doing something productive, even though it's wasting time. But let's pause right here. We're going to get into procrastination and the email tricks. But before I forget, I just want to talk about some of the applications of doing this, like setting up your calendar, time blocking. Some people are going to be like, I don't have time to do that, because I'm sure it does take time. And so can we accomplish this, Kevin, in a Google Calendar, like just setting things to repeat, or do we need a physical calendar? Like what, after all your interviews and work with people, what seems to be best, and maybe share with us some of the practical ways to accomplish this?
Yeah, I think I always say, there's no one right way. Do what works for you. What I've seen work for me and many, many other people is to adopt, an online calendar. Paper calendars I'll use if I'm planning projects, things like that. Some of the Olympic athletes were talking about big wall calendars. A lot of the students were saying they use big wall calendars for like a semester. But day to day, I'm a big fan of Google Calendar or, the Outlook calendar, whatever the equivalent is. And that's the beauty, just as you said, is you can create recurring time blocks so easily. So, if you've got a daily block, let's just say for exercise, you set that up once, make it daily recurring, and it's just going to trickle out forever, on your calendar. You can set it up weekly. So if you've got a date night, or every Monday your MIT is, a team meeting or something like that, you set it up, repeat once a week, it just repeats forever. When you're like on an electronic calendar as well. So what will happen is, life does happen. So you've got your perfect day planned. Your boss says, I don't care, Mike, go cancel that doctor appointment. I'm meeting with you. So, you need to move that appointment, but with an electronic calendar, you can just drag it, right? You can just drag it to the next day, so it's not forgotten. So you still do it. If it's something that's going to reoccur, you could always delete it. But there's no real magic. And, the beauty is this day and age, it's really easy to get your smartphone syncing with the desktop calendar. So whether it's Outlook, Google Calendar, something like that, you're just living off that calendar. People think, oh, it's crazy. How can you say not to look at a to-do list? Basically, you're just going to look at your daily calendar. That is your to-do list for the day. So it's a real easy way to implement it like that.
That's really cool. Now, let's talk about taking action. And you talk about this in your book, so it's better to at least do something than nothing. Like say, for example, a meeting goes long, or you have a little bit more email than you expected, whatever it may be. And so your times are kind of not in sync a little bit. And so maybe you only have 20 minutes exercise. Is it better to push exercise out, or just do a little bit? Like share with us kind of that mindset of completion and what it does for our momentum.
Yeah, to me, I think especially when it comes to the things that we might be procrastinating, I think doing a little bit is better than pushing it, because it's kind of a hokey saying, but nobody ever gets better in the future. Nobody ever gets healthier in the future, meaning now is the only moment that counts, right? It's the only moment we can control. So, and again, this is speaking from experience. Even when I'm struggling with working out, I will sometimes, and again, it's sort of like just tricking yourself, saying, you know what? I am sick today, or I am busy today. So I'm only going to get on that treadmill for 3 minutes. I'm not even going to run. I'll just fast walk it 6 miles an hour for 3 minutes. What happens when you get to the 3-minute mark? You're usually like, all right, come on, I could do 10 minutes and I'll notch it up to 8, kind of thing. So, and it's the same with other things you might be procrastinating, whether it's writing a report or preparing for a final exam. Too often we say, we only have 15 minutes until we have to leave for class or for whatever. I'll just surf Facebook. I'll check some random things. I'll read BuzzFeed, whatever it might be. Ultra productive people, they purposely schedule their calendar in 15-minute chunks. Over and over again, people told me that their calendar, when you open up Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar, by default, when you set an appointment, usually the default setting is 30 or 60 minutes. So if you want a real quick hack, go into the settings for your online calendar and change the default to 15 minutes. Then on purpose, all of a sudden, your phone calls are 15-minute phone calls. Your meetings are 15-minute meetings. Okay, maybe you're recording a podcast. So that's 3 blocks of 15 minutes or 4 blocks. But your whole mindset changes into these 15 minutes. Then all of a sudden, when it's like, oh, wow, I got this thing I'm supposed to do, but in 15 minutes, I got to get in the car to go to that appointment. It's like, cool, I got one time block, 1 unit I can invest into doing that work I'm putting off. So I like taking the small steps, whether it's on the treadmill or a report or anything else, and say, look, it's better than saying you're going to come back to it in the future, because the future doesn't always get here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something about that commitment and consistency. And both of us have written books, and I did that a lot. Like when I was on vacation or traveling with my wife and daughter, I would go into a coffee shop just for 20 minutes and just write something down. And I would often have an aha moment, like, oh my gosh. And I would think about it and take some notes, and it built some momentum. And the same thing can be for exercise. When I travel, there's, if we have like dinner meetings, I'm with colleagues or what have you, it's easy to sneak off into a hotel room workout, and you feel so much better, and then you carry that momentum. And so I think it's important to make that distinction, like you were saying, like certain things, certain meetings you want to say no to, but certain things you obviously want to complete for that sake of commitment and consistency. And one of the tips that I loved was your email rule. So let's talk about, a lot of people live and breathe by their email. They love to respond right away and address people's priorities, but talk about maybe why that's not good. That you have.
Yeah, it's email and meetings are the two things that people keep coming up as like, boy, I'd love to do X, but how can I when my whole life is spent in email? I mean, it's the number one complaint. And the first thing is, when it comes to email, is we have to realize our own culpability in the problem of email, both from a sense of sending out too many emails and putting people on CC lines and all that kind of stuff, but also that we get something from all those email checks. I talk about it being sort of like a cognitive slot machine, right? And you go and you play slots, and you drop your buck in, you pull the arm, chick, 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 and you're excited. Hey, what am I going to see? Nothing. You do it again. Nothing. You do it again. Nothing. All of a sudden, hey, I just won $10. I'm excited. Then I do it again. Nothing. Right? Email is the same way. Facebook is the same way. We go and check email, and it's like, am I going to get anything in that? Nope. That's a boring one. I'll come back to it later. Let me read the next one. That's stupid. I'm coming back to that later. Next one. Ooh, a funny joke. All of a sudden that dopamine gets triggered. It's like winning the slot machine handle. Oh, that's a funny joke, or that's an interesting story. Same with our social media stuff. It's boring, 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 dancing cat, hooray, boring, boring. So we need to realize that we are using email. We like ding, you hear that little notification. It's like, ooh, a little half a second of Christmas time just happened. What did I get? A package at the door. It's usually nothing, but it distracts us. So once we understand our own role in it, again, the mindset then will lead to behavior change. Ultra productive people, they schedule time to process email. They don't talk about checking, let me just check email. They process email and they schedule time. Now, everybody's different. Now, I don't know how many emails you get. I get hundreds a day and all the rest. A rule of thumb for me, like there's a lot of people that will check email once a day. I mean, they're hardcore. So I've got 45 minutes of email processing time a day. I'll do as many as I can. The goal for them is just do that much in that 45 minutes, and that's enough. I think it's more practical for most people because we like to respond quickly. We feel disconnected if we're not on. I do 3 scheduled check-ins, morning, noon, and late afternoon or early evening. So I try to do it to 3 times. I call this system, just to help you remember it, 3, 2, 1, 0. So the 3 is 3 times a day that it's scheduled. The 2, 1 is 21. I schedule 21 minutes in each of those slots to process my mail. I'll usually set the 21 minutes on my smartphone, so it's counting down. Now, as crazy as that sounds, so the 0, 3, 2, 1, 0, I'm trying to get to inbox 0. I'm trying to process it all. And it sounds so corny. I challenge everyone to try it. Because what happens is you purposely want the time to be rushed. It's not enough time to get through all the emails. For me, I try to do it in 21 minutes, and I like the way that sounds, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yeah.
For you, it might be 45 minutes. For others, it might be 5 minutes, whatever that number is. But all of a sudden, it's almost like a game. It's like, this is ticking down. I got 17 more minutes. And all of a sudden, you open the email, someone says something, there's a link. I used to be like, I wonder if that article is worth reading later. So let me click it now, read a paragraph. Next thing I know, 5 minutes later, I've read half the article. Oh yeah, I'm processing emails. Close that article, get back to emails. So when the time is ticking down, you move through it really fast and you just go through. It's like, can I delete it? Good. If not, can I delegate it? Good. If I can't delegate it either, can I do it fast, like within less than 5 minutes, answer their question, find a document? Okay, I'll do it. It's going to take too long. Then you schedule it. And what people don't realize is, like in Gmail, if you have an open email, you click the little more menu at the top of the screen and it will say create an event out of the email. You just click that, calendar opens up and you say, all right, I'm gonna schedule this for tomorrow at 4 p.m., Sunday at 3 in the afternoon, and you click that and the entire email becomes an appointment on your calendar. Everything goes on that calendar. So the goal is not to leave stuff littered. I'm going to come back to that email later. Using that inbox like a to-do list. You want to delete it, delegate it, do it, or defer it, which is to schedule it on your calendar. I try to, keep email closed so I'm not distracted by it. 3 times a day, 21 minutes each time, with the goal to get it to 0 at the end.
Gosh, that's an amazing tip. That tip alone is worth the book or more. So amazing there. I love it. Now let's kind of dive in. You have a lot of practical procrastination avoidance tips. So let's kind of talk about that, because that's something that comes up a lot. People, have the best of intentions, but they procrastinate, put it off, and do all this sort of stuff. So you kind of hit on the present and future self. Any other aha moments after interviewing all these experts?
Yeah, I think the most effective one is like realizing that your future self is not your friend. So like, how do you get ready for that? But real effective ones, and this is one I'm sure Mike, like a buddy of mine is a sports psychologist. And he told me years ago, as I continue to battle with let me make this lifelong commitment to working out. He said, Kevin, the number one thing I can recommend is get an accountability partner. It's your neighbor who will meet you 6 a.m. outside to go jogging around the neighborhood. It's hiring a coach that's going to kick your butt if you don't show up at the gym, at 6 p.m. and get your workout in. Whoever it is, however, whether it's a friend or someone you're paying for, he said, look, you'll break your promise to yourself all day long. You'll let yourself off the hook. You'll think twice before you're going to leave, your next door neighbor, David, out in the cold, standing there wondering like, geez, when's Kruse getting here? It's getting late. You'll think twice about blowing off your paid coach, even though you're paying them, because, he or she's going to be standing around. Is he showing up or not? So, the accountability partner is a big one. Another one, along those lines is sort of the reward or the penalty payment. And a lot of people know to sort of, I will reward myself with whatever, when I get this thing done, I will treat myself. And it could be something simple. Like I have a 17-year-old daughter. She does very well in school. And the way she handles social media distractions, which is a big deal with teens and, really everybody, but especially teens, she rewards herself with checking Snapchat after she finishes one subject of homework. So let me do math. And when I do math, I will go check Snapchat, hopefully for not more than 5 or 10 minutes. Then let me do English. And when I'm done with English, let me go check Snapchat for 5 or 10 minutes. But there's also penalties. I mean, there's a website called stick.com, STIKK, I think 2 Ks, something like that, maybe 1 K. And you can set up where you can say, here's my goal. It's to lose a certain amount of weight. It's to exercise, a certain number of days, whatever habit you want to instill. And here's $100. And, it will send the money to a charity or to an organization you don't like if you don't hit that goal. So, I got a buddy of mine in his office. They did one of these weight loss challenges, like 30 days, lose weight. And they had what they all did. They're all liberal Democrats. So they all threw $100 into the pot. And if they didn't all lose a certain number of pounds, it was the total combined weight. So it was a team effort. That money they had to send to the National Rifle Association. Now, this has nothing to do with politics, of course. You could have, I'm sure there's conservative Republicans that are, sending the money to a liberal group. But the idea is that's the stick, right? So they're in it together. There's that accountability partner thing. Mike, come on, you haven't lost any weight yet. I can't carry you. Come on, do your part. But then if you blow it, knowing that you're going to be funding this organization that you don't like. So whether it's the reward or the stick, these are 2 more ways to deal with the procrastination and sticking to our goals.
I've often heard that people pay more money to get rid of pain than to gain pleasure. So that will, kind of come with that. So that's amazing. Kevin, you have a lot of great practical tips in the book. I want to encourage people to check that out. 15 secrets successful people know about time management. Now, before we go into final questions, we just have 3 questions, and then we'll talk about where people can learn more about you. Anything about the book that we didn't get to cover that you want to share?
No, I think, Michael, I appreciate your support. There's, 15 really cool habits. Any one can be life-changing, but it does go back to that mindset. You need to realize, look, if you aren't achieving your goals fast enough, if you're feeling overworked and overwhelmed, you have to realize that it's you, because there is a better way. There's a smarter way to work. It is possible to increase your productivity while also increasing your balance. So whatever the solution is, however you want to learn it, it really is on you. It's a mindset thing first. That's really the biggest takeaway of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what's so good about increasing your productivity is you feel better about yourself at the end of the day. Like the more that you accomplish, the better you feel. And that's where I think this time blocking really comes into effect and avoiding procrastination. So great tips there, Kevin. So normally we have a lot of healthcare experts on the show, but you did a wonderful job at helping people manage their time better, because we know that cooking is one of the things that people have a problem with. So if there was one whole food, herb, nutrient, botanical, maybe some sort of meal that you found to be most effective and helpful for you that you just couldn't live without, what would that be and why?
Yeah, well, so this is not an area of my strength. So I'm going to give you 2 answers. In terms of something that's a little different that I take, and a long time ago, I had a lot of different GI issues, and I started eating candied ginger and drinking, ginger tea. And it's almost became, actually to the point where I like it. I like, it's bitter, but I like the flavor of that. So I eat a lot of ginger. But in terms of advice, the thing that can change people's lives is meal prep. Using Sunday, for example, to go out and shop and to cook. If you don't want to do a full week's meals, that's fine. But, half your dinners or half your lunches, because 1, it's going to save you time. You're not thinking every single night, what are we going to have for dinner? And do we have to run out to the store and buy it? Now we have to cook and clean. You will save time. But when the meals are prepped and easy, you pull it out of the fridge, nuke it or fry it up, whatever it is, you will eat healthy. I mean, that people think I don't have time to eat healthy. Oh, you do. You will save time and eat healthier if you prep your meals ahead of time. Do, 3, 4, 5, 8 meals in advance. That's really the big health habit that I would share out there.
Yeah, that's a great one that we've been teaching for quite some time. And a lot of healthy people do that naturally. So it's a great tip there. And we've had 117 previous guests here, Kevin, and no one's mentioned anything about ginger. So I'm glad you mentioned that,
Oh,
because
cool.
that's an amazing herb that everyone should be using. So if there was just one piece of advice that you could offer Barack Obama or a congressman in an elevator, if you're standing there and happen to bump shoulders with them, Kevin, what would you share with them and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to health stuff, and health is what drives energy, which drives productivity. So, I mean, I am mindful of it, and I don't know how realistic, I don't know what policy solutions there are, but my message is that, I mean, sugar is evil. I mean, white carbs are evil. And again, when I was young and dumb, I just didn't understand that. And I think whether it's what we're teaching in the schools or what's still showing up in the school cafeterias, the amount of carbs is absolutely insane. I've got 3 kids and I'm seeing it. And again, like, it's almost life changing when you go to slow carbs instead of crazy white carbs. The impact it can have on your life is amazing. So it'd be some message about that.
I love that. Great advice. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And on the flip side, when kids are having carbohydrates, their behavior is just erratic. And same with adults. I mean, carbs are really fattening as well. And so it's just so powerful and so easy to do if you plan ahead, like you said, shop on Sunday, get all your vegetables, cook ahead of time. So that's great, Kevin. Now, you're a very productive guy. You have 3 kids, like you mentioned. You're a best-selling author. You do a lot of motivational speaking. What's the first couple hours of your day look like? We know that you talk about in your book that people are most focused and productive in the early parts of the day. So share with us what that looks like.
Yeah, and this was a surprise in the book as well. I mean, when I just asked everybody an open-ended question, what's your number one piece of advice for productivity? I was shocked at how many people went to their morning routine. It wasn't actually about, well, it was never about to-do lists, but it wasn't the stuff you'd normally think of for time management. I was looking for that, and they said, oh, let me tell you about the first 60 minutes of my day. And I really, I thought I was the only one that had these kind of weird rituals. But for my own, I call it my sacred 60. It's really my first hour. And I do pop out of bed and I flick the coffee pot on. I do have a couple cups of coffee in the morning. I feed the cats and, get my teen daughters off to high school. And that all takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then the first thing, I'm a big believer in having an attitude of gratitude. I think gratitude is like the number one value. So, I just sit and think of things I'm grateful for. And most days, I mean, that's probably a 10 or 15 second exercise. Other days, I sit with it for about a minute. I do try to meditate a bit. I've been using the Muse headband, the EEG device, to actually measure, how calm your thoughts are, which is kind of cool and a fun thing to experiment with. I always do. I was late in life to discover this, but I feel a whole lot better when I've done about 20 minutes of yoga stretches, nothing too fancy. And when I miss those for a day or two, I mean, my body just feels it. I'm 48 years old. So if I'm not stretching on a daily basis, it isn't long before I'm feeling the effects. And then I'm ideally jumping on the treadmill, or one of my tricks is just to work out one body part a morning, because it goes back to that thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to work out for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm going to come up with an excuse, but come on, I've got time to do some curls. I've got time to do some crunches, right? So I'll pick one body part to work out each morning. So I'll get through most of the major ones in 7 days. And in terms of nutrition, I usually will do a protein shake that I also throw a big handful of spinach and blueberries in. That's kind of my shake in the morning. And that's about it. And then I try to get into, after my first hour, Sacred 60, then I go into my MIT. And usually that's for 1 to 2 hours. So it's often writing or something like that. And then I'll pop back out and do something else.
That's awesome. Really good routine. And thanks for going into the detail. I think people are going to dig that. And that one body part. And once you get warmed up, you're like, I can maybe do 2 body parts today.
Yeah. I end up doing 2 body parts, or I'll go crazy on that body part. It's like, okay, I just did a bunch of sit-ups, but now I'm going to, use the ball and do some stuff. So it does tend to grow.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Kevin, learned a lot. Your book is amazing. Highly recommend it to everyone. So I know you have a couple different websites, a couple different books. Where do you want people to kind of learn more about you? And maybe you have some free resources you could offer them?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest thing, Mike, I mean, I'm online everywhere, social media, Kevin Kruse, last name is Kruse. But the easiest thing is we've set up a website for the new book. So, listeners, viewers of yours, High Intensity Health, go to www.15timesecrets.com. That's 15timesecrets.com. I'll actually send you a paperback copy of the book if you pay shipping and handling, and there's online training videos, templates and checklists, all kinds of cool stuff to really increase productivity while increasing your balance at the same time.
Love it. And it's packed with information, 323 pages or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great information. So really, really appreciate you coming on the show, Kevin. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom, and I hope you have a great day.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep.